Hello,
Hello,
I'm fiction and non-fiction writer Rose Skelton.
and I'm poet Nomi Stone. In November 2018, we got married in Philadelphia City Hall after a year and a half of long distance dating, and we applied for a green card. We began living together for the first time in a small apartment in Philadelphia while I was applying for academic jobs, with my job soon ending, and with Rose unable to work or travel to her home on an island in Scotland. During that time, we wrote letters to each other about living together, about marriage, about writing. This is an excerpt of those letters beginning on the day that Rose's green card arrived in the mail.
April 10th, 2019, Philadelphia. Baby, won't we remember this day forever? Suddenly, blossom is in every tree, and the streets are filled with petals, cherry, crabapple, plum, and the kids are playing in it like snow. This morning, returning home, we stepped up to the doorway and we were wearing short-sleeved t-shirts and the air was just so warm against our skin. You told me I should open the mailbox because, I don't know how, but we knew. And there it was, my green card, and everything seems different now because I can at last get a job, pay taxes, buy stuff, open a bank account, get car insurance, rent a house, become a person in this country. And I can go home to Scotland to see my friends, my community, to check that my house is still standing. It feels impossibly sweet and good. We just stood on the doorstep and cried. I still wonder, where are we going to live next? All along I said it would be Dallas. Something about the open landscape of Texas has always excited me. You are in job interviews and negotiations, so we will wait and see. Meanwhile, I will begin packing for Mull because finally I get to go home. The happiest your wife has been in a long time, your darling, Rosie.
June 30th, 2019, Egina, Greece. Dear wife, how good to write you from here, our second favorite island. As we get deeper into our time in Egina, the air feels more fiercely fragrant when I ride behind you on the moped. Pine and thyme on the wind, cutting through the heat, then inland, zooming through orchards, when we pause and inspect to see if fallen lemons are too bruised. We should have grabbed that last one, because now our cucumber soup is lemonless. Even though things are sometimes hard, we've passed into a different time from the winter, thank the gods. Being here in particular, in the freeing wind and in the freeing ocean, we are both trying to take risks. You're writing an essay about this year, the green card process, but also more, a reckoning with home and belonging, and why Mull became a refuge for you. I'm trying to write braver poems about fear and about the suburbs and the undertow of the past and my sometimes dread of my body. While we were riding on the moped the other day, on the way to our new favorite faraway beach, you told me to try to write the hard, unsayable things. I think what I love most in our marriage is we fight for each other to be bold, in writing and in the world. As you write your essay, the most naked thing you've ever written, how do you keep risking and pushing on? In another try at braveness, I've been ocean swimming too. I've watched you ocean swim since I've known you. In the beginning, I was so astonished at how far you went. Once, I was left to shell peas and watch the fire while you swam. It was very early in our relationship, but we didn't know each other very well. I remember your bright orange swimming cap diminishing to a point as you went out further. I thought it was my job to watch you, to make sure you were okay. I was too afraid to go inside even to get a bowl to put the peas. And I let the fire go out. Now I better understand that you swim to feel the muscle of the ocean, to be free, to lose yourself. It's been years since I felt afraid when you were in the ocean. Now, you're teaching me how to better my sloppy swimming stroke, and I try to frog my legs and arrow my arms like you do. At the beginning, the urchins induced this blue throb of terror in me. Now I can swim over them. I've had chronic pain since 2013, and turning myself into a frog and obliterating the anxious chatter of my mind does me real good. Writing fearlessly feels a little like swimming, turning off my mind's sensors, scaling the urchins. I was about to start a new paragraph about swimming and writing, but then I heard you in the doorway. permission to approach. Because when I'm writing, I tumble into such an intense deep sea dive that I forget where I am and get startled if someone comes behind me. Then there you were. And then you were kissing me. And the deliciousness of the surprise. Usually we don't fuck at this hour. We had a lot of sex yesterday. Now I feel I could run a marathon in the world on the page somewhere. I'm just back at my computer when you bring me a hot oiled round of pita with an egg, sprinkled with pistachio dukkha from the pistachios of this very beautiful island, and the fresh sharp cheese from the cheese guy who knows what we like. Your wife, Nomi.
5th of July, 2019. Egina, Greece. Hi, honey pants. It seems also almost impossible that nearly a month has passed since we arrived on this island, and when I think about how slowly the weeks and months passed this terrible winter in Philadelphia, it somehow doesn't make sense. Our days here have been filled with writing and then swimming and eating and so much good reading. My favorite was reading Leading Men with you out loud in the hammock. Remember how we sobbed on the last page as Frank lay dying, Tennessee Williams at his side, that terrible last line, I am used to you, in place of I love you. And yet, how much of loving someone relates to being used to them, understanding their strange habits and fears, knowing what will make them smile, the secret language that couples have. I was single for so long. 15 years I loved people who didn't love me back or who I got bored of. And then you, strange, funny, razor-sharp, spacey, loyal, kind. I never get tired of being with you. And yet, this closeness could only come once I got used to you. In the beginning, I used to long for time alone, to be able to hike or swim in the ocean without you watching me. When you watched me, I could feel your eyes on me and I wanted to swim further and further away to get out of your sight so I could have some space to think. I didn't realize then how selfish it was because I didn't understand that you were looking out for me to make sure I was okay. I had never had anyone care for me like that before. I didn't know what it was, this thing that I was feeling. Love. Now when I go for long swims along the coast of Egina, I tell you how long I'll be and when to expect me back. But when I round the bay to the rocky steps that lead up to our motorbike and belongings, I half expect you to be pacing the shore trying to spy me in the ocean. And I feel guilt at having made you worry. But then I see you lying under the trees, your sun hat over your eyes, deeply engrossed in a novel, and I realize that you've got used to my absences and my sea swimming, that you aren't worrying about me at all. It is a soft used-to-ness that has come over us, an ease, a gentle kind of knowing that makes the time so much easier than it was in the beginning. We were old when we met. I'm 40 now. It took us some time to sink into each other. I've been working every day on my essay about being an immigrant in the US, about having to leave my home so suddenly and then being stuck in Philly, and about home, what that means, where that is. Home means something different for everyone. For some, it's the home we grew up in, or the place our parents live, or it's where our kids are, or our wife, or our belongings. But for me, it's this strange, rugged island, which I have a childhood connection to, and where I have made a life as an adult. It's where my community is. My sense of belonging there is going through a difficult time, because I have to leave. We're moving to Texas. It's an exciting thing, and it's a difficult thing. I don't know if the island will keep me if I am gone for so many months of the year. Mull is the only place I have ever felt at home. And so I'm pushing myself to write deeply about that, even though it's hard and uncomfortable and sometimes ugly. You ask how I keep pushing myself on to take these risks. When I'm out swimming in the ocean, sometimes the wind and the waves pick up behind me and I know at some point that I have to turn around and head back to where I started. I know it's going to be hard. I have the ocean against me now, but you have two choices: fight through the waves or drown. And so of course you push harder, you make each arm pull stronger, and you make each breath quicker so that you can move through the waves without the ocean breaking in your face. Sometimes rocks will suddenly jut up and you have to swim even harder then to control your body in the ocean, not let the ocean control you. You push on until you see land, and then you feel the muscle of the ocean relax and let you go. I think of writing as something like ocean swimming. Sometimes it's easy, you spit out pages and pages, and sometimes it's just terrible. You claw your way through line after line, feeling you're getting nowhere. But you are striving for honesty and clarity to work out what you want to say and how, and sometimes the wave will push against you, tell you should avoid this subject, or it will feel impossible to write about some of the things in your life that bring you shame. But you have two choices, to push harder or to drown. And so you kick harder, try to control the thing, not let it control you. And you know when you've got there, when your work sparkles with honesty and clarity. You know it as clearly as seeing your wife on the shore, sun hat over her face, deeply engrossed in a novel, not even aware that you're gone. What other choice do we have if we want to make good art? I must away to hide the treasure we've gathered for our host sons to find at the end of their elaborate treasure hunt, and return to my essay. I might need some peaches for that. Do you want to have breakfast in a few minutes? I'll start cracking the pistachios. I love you, wife. Rosie.
December 29th, 2019, the Isle of Mull. My darling, we are back on Mull, and I am looking out our window onto the chilly sea and the island's winter palette, the shock of burnt orange bracken, the mauve undertones in the hills. We just had our marriage blessed this week by your dear lifeboat on the day of the winter solstice, and I can see where it all happened from here. The reedy ache of the bagpipes coming down the street, you in your suit and bow tie, and me in my glitzy sequins and yellow lifeboat boots. I can see the spot where we walked through the oars, held above our heads by the lifeboaters. I felt the community folding us in as our friends and family watched. We stood together by the sea, the darkest day of the year, the Earth's maximum tilt away from the sun, holding hands, surrounded by our loved ones. This island gets velvety black every day at 4 p.m. this season, and then we light the wood stove in our small house, the gleam of the fire inside. Sweetheart, a glowing room, how it is with you, how it came to be. But my God, it took time. It took making, it took patience, and a period of indescribable loss. Yesterday, we walked to Cradle Loch, where water runs under everything. You have to test your foot before you put it down, jump between these straw-like hillocks on the scarlet cushions of lichen to not land in the bog. We ate wild garlic pesto and cheese sandwiches with a flask of tea while the wind whooshed around us. The wind was so strong that it unsnapped your coat and seared into my ears, giving me an earache. We spoke of the self rising to meet the intensity of the landscape. I felt so small in the wind, but so small together. In the car afterwards, we talked about what we've sometimes referred to as the dark time, when we broke up 2 years ago and thought maybe we would never see each other again. You reminded me of that in the first year of our relationship. You often didn't know how I was feeling or what my boundaries were. You told me that in that period you'd say something to me and know that it had rubbed me the wrong way and I wouldn't push back. It's true. I was afraid. This is how I'd approach love, always, and I think it's why I'd failed. I would fall into giddiness so quickly, dream of a future immediately, and then I would be terrified to threaten it. I did it so many times, identified what a lover seemed to find the desirable parts of my personality, inhabit those most deeply, repress or rub off the sharp edges of the rest of myself. We broke up. We didn't speak for 3 months. I thought we would never speak again. The loss of you was impossible. It was, I think, the most awful wound I've ever known. So I wrote to you to tell you I loved you and wanted to try again. That I thought there was maybe the possibility of a new start, a change, that things could not be as they were. I'm of course crying as I write this, but not as I read it. Even as I sit across from where we had our marriage blessed just a week ago. And with time, we found each other again. And things did change. We learned how to rise up, to meet each other and compromise, talk things through. What I learned most of all was how to meet you honestly as my whole self. I learned that friction, the whole self interfacing with the whole other self, the moments of frustration and irritation, those moments of true difference are so important because they allow for true knowledge of the other. And then the greatest thing, coming to love and know and accept the other with all their rough spots and weirdnesses. I think it's this kind of friction we seek as writers too. We talk about getting dirt under our fingernails when we write, the courage of writing into the hardest things. And every day we wake up and we try to do it again. Friction with and against the self, knowing the self and the world through contact. Being truly seen by you helps me to see myself. And this helps me be a better writer, a better person, a better wife. So yes, I too am afraid of loss. And funny paradox, while I grew up in a family where we say I love you to each other constantly, I knew they wouldn't leave. But real intimacy with a lover, someone who could leave, that was a hard one for me. The intimacy, the ease that I now feel does rise in me like a fountain. But I think it took everything in me for it to become the real thing. I love you, Nomi.